Okay, so in the last project we just created this code. Let me see if I can get my toolbars back. I need a compiler, I need a code to completion. I also need the debugger like that, so that I see some of the things that were not visible. So in essence, we would want to put some of the things that we've learned so far into practice, but we can always modify this as we proceed. So this particular lesson helps us to know how each element works, or how we can actually work with each element as we proceed. So what we first need to do, or first need to know as we are working with our coding, is the following. Okay, we need to have some content or some background to how we are doing it, and I'll explain also how we work with our project document, our research, etc. Okay, so we are saying we have created, or we have named the name of the project as Class Management System. Okay, we need to be able to add. The first thing we need to ask is, what information do we need to add? So we might need to add things like the name of the class. We need to add also the days of the class. We might also need to have a register. We might also need to have students. Okay, so we pretty much need to list the things that we need to be able to manage the class. We're simply saying, if we're to do a system that works with all the e-learning portfolios or programs that we're working with, okay, let's say, for example, we're working with our course. Okay, we need to have assignments, we need to have tests, we also need to have classwork, homework, which is something that we need to work with at a later stage. We also need to maybe have reference to specific elements. So these are some of the things that we'll then start working with as we're looking at each element individually. So maybe outside of this, we can then pick out and say, here's what we want to put within our project or within our program. So it's going to be something specific, but not necessarily everything that we need to cover. So hence, when we're actually working on our project document, we are then deciding that the project document and this that we are doing, we're supposed to be working on them hand in hand, or doing them at exactly the same time. Okay, so let's say, in my perspective, I want to cut it down to specifics. So what I need to add, or what I need to have as part of my system, or as part of this management system, is the following. First of all, I need a class name. I need also a class tutor. I would also need a class title. I would also need student register, and lastly, I would also need class work. Okay, something along those lines. These are some of the things that I'll pick. Not the best elements that I can work with, but they'll start to get our program running, or to get our elements working and running. Okay, so this can be given in different or various forms. So I would have created something that I think I can be able to work with, and then when I come to my code now, I'm supposed to now be as creative as is possible to make sure I match these elements. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do now is we need to set the layout for our create value. Okay, so we can put a C out and we say we want to create new record for a class. Okay, so we want to create a new record for a class, and then oh, my mistake, guys, I was working with C++ just now, so let me correct my code. Okay, like that. Perfect. Sorry for that. Okay, so we want to create a new record, and we want to be able to specify some of these elements that we've listed here, and also maybe change them as we see fit, because as you're working on it, you will be changing your information or your content as you proceed. Okay, so for example, we need a class name. That definitely we need. We need a class tutor, we need a class title, we need a student register, we need a classwork. Okay, so with what we have learned before, we've actually worked with structures. So I think this will be a perfect place to actually create a structure. So we can come here after our variables, okay, and then we name that and say structures. Okay, so as you're also making your content, please make sure you use comments as much as you can. Okay, so we want to be able to create a struct. Outside of our struct, we then need to have it as a name. So we want to be able to create struct new data. Okay, that then becomes the name of our structure, where we then want to be able to pick some of these things. The first one would be a character class name. Okay, we make that an array variable of 50 characters or 50 values. We also need another character of the next element, which is class tutor. We also make that 80 characters because we might have a slightly larger name. The next thing we want is the class title. Class title, which we also make maybe 70, and then we use character. What's the next one? The next one is we had actually called it students, but maybe we can actually call it the following. We can actually call it class attendance. Okay, where we'll be able to pick some items as we are progressing, so to speak. Although this may be something that we'll need to work on in a specific reference. Okay, why I'm saying it's a specific reference is in some cases some students might not be able to attend the class. In some cases the students will be able to attend the class. So in a normal case we need to then figure out how we can actually work with class attendance, etc. Okay, I'll explain that as we proceed with it, but let's get into our actual creation point. Okay, so we've got our structure here, which is new data. So let me just copy that because I want to initialize our structure to this particular point, our create value. So we then call it add. The new element, we call it add. And let's do the following. We want to add these values. Okay. Class name, class tutor, class title, class attendance. Okay. So to make it easier for me, I think let me put all the variables first, and then I'll be able to add the content that I need as we proceed. Okay. So first of all, we need to add the class name. Add again the class title. Add again the class tutor. Add again the class attendance. Okay, so these are the elements that we need to add. So let's make the content that goes in line with this. So we have a printf, we open and we close brackets. We say enter class name. We also do the same for the next one, printf. We want to enter class title. We want to do the next one for, we want to do the same for the next one as well, which is what we are saying, enter class tutor. And then we want to put the same for the next one, which is now enter class attendance, like that. So this then means we want to enter these particular aspects. Although now I'm also realizing something that you guys are also supposed to be picking up. It might not be practical to enter attendance every single time, because we are saying we're doing this for a class. So the attendance might not be necessary. But for the purposes of this example, let's work with it. But if we then get to a place where we want to actually modify it, we can modify and say this we are changing because of 1, 2, 3 elements, which is where we come in with the documentation bit. Documentation aids in us doing record keeping as we create our content. So each time that we're creating our content, we're supposed to be putting records aside and also changes to these records. Because you'd find when we started here, we had some stuff, we made the next few lines there, and we changed a few things. So it means nothing essentially is static. We can always change whatever we're doing based on what we see fit. So as we're doing it, this will then be part of what we call your preliminary investigation. This is where it comes. So as we have it, we'll be investigating and trying to find out and figure out whatever it is that we are hoping to achieve based on whatever project we have done or we will be working on. So we'll come back to our information here. We want to be able to put a scanf, and we want to be able to have a percentage %s, and we put an ampersand. Okay, so that we can add that. We do the same for the rest of our content. We do that there, we do that there, we do that at that point as well. Don't forget to place the commas and also your closing brackets and your semicolon, like that, so that we can be able to add this information. So as it stands, here's what we've actually done. We've created a structure. We've also created this content there. Okay, so let's just run it and see if this works. We may have an issue somewhere. It is telling us that A is undeclared. Oh yes, we don't have an A at all. So I'd actually put some errors in our code. Let's run it. Okay, so we are on the same page. We create, select one, create new, enter class name, software, enter class title, C programming, tutor skipped, class attendance, ABS. Okay, that is fine. So at least it's working. Let's see, we had an error on our class tutor. Why did we have an error? Did we make an a mistake somewhere? Okay, let's just run it again in case I missed it. Software, C me. Okay, so it's fine. I realize why we got the error. It's because we had put a space in our string. We're not supposed to put a space in our string if we're expecting to input our values simultaneously. And also this is working because our data type is exactly the same as before. So pretty much this then means our logic for this is correct and is in order. Although we don't want it to then just end there. We want to be able to control how we also do this. So let's see how we can control how we also do this in doing the following. Okay, or rather by doing the following. Okay, we put a new variable, int I, and then I like to work with the switch statement, and we might have to do something along these lines. Printf, open and close brackets, we state the following: create, or rather add, record, put a new line, and then printf, we want to be able to have 0, and we say return to menu, like that. And then we have a switch statement which gets our I, and our I should do the following: case 0 and case 1. Defaults, printf, we then put invalid option chosen. So we need a break there. We also need a break there. Okay, so we want to return to menu, so just call menu. Since menu exists, and here we want to work with that, so we can just copy that, control copy, and we paste it there. that then means we've got everything that we want and we would have chosen. But before we do that, we actually also need to put a scanf to get the option that we are hoping for. So it's we open quotations %d ampersand I. So we create a new value. This is to create a new record. Then it asks us add record or return to menu. If we say 0, takes us back to menu. Select 1 again. We put 1 this time. So we want to enter a class name, software, class title C, class tutor me, class attendance ABS, like that. So it's working. We might also need to just, the moment we end there, we want to return to create value. So after this, we then call on create value so that we start from where we left off. Okay, so let's just run it. Create new, add record. Okay, so then it takes us back to there. We put on a 0 and we're good to go. Okay, so this is how we pretty much work with our programming. So it's as good as we are saying we have done most of the work that we're supposed to work with. Okay, so in summary, here's what we did. We came into this program, we created our structure, which was the first thing that we did. And we said our structure, we need to put structure, new data, and then we have our class name, as the first variable, class tutor, next variable, class title, next variable, class attendance, next variable. And here is the content that we've got there. We then come back to our create value, and then we start adding information to our create value. So we then came to work out this logic first. This is what we created first. So we have enter class name, we enter it using, we get it using a scanf. Enter class title, we get it using a scanf. Enter class tutor, we get it using a scanf. Enter class attendance, we get it using a scanf. And then we also go back to create value. We then also figured out that we needed to have two options, which is add record and return to menu, where we then created a variable called I, where we were switching I between 0 and 1, and then this then made our function pretty much work in this particular manner. But like I'm saying, this is just for an example purpose, so you can be able to play around with this until you get the gist or how this in particular would be working. So I'd always suggest that before you get into the actual project, please go through all the lectures that we have. Please ask as many questions as is possible. If you need me to add a lecture that explains some of the parts that you didn't quite get, please let me know so that I can be able to edit those lectures and send them to you and have you work on whatever it is that we want to work on. So as we close this lecture, I want you guys to start thinking of, okay, a project name and title. Okay, so also I'll need you to then start working on a concept. Please don't just get something off the internet and copy it. I'd be more pleased if you can be able to work on something that challenges your brain, because the idea of programming, you are supposed to work with something that you learn. So you only learn when you're actually doing specifics on an actual computer and whilst you're doing the research and whatever it is that you have set out to do, you do it until completion. So if you can give me this, it would be greatly appreciated. You are also supposed to ask questions as well, so you can refer back to me whenever you are stuck or when you have challenges with whatever you're doing, and I'll be there to assist. Also, this is what we have created, the Canvas platform and the WhatsApp platform, so that we can be able to ask questions. If we can ask questions and work on as many questions as is possible, you then get to realize that this becomes easier because we are asking questions related to whatever it is that we are doing and working on until the end. So here ends the next project lesson.